up and sit down.
Welcome, everybody, to... Larry, I'm going to mess up the intro on purpose here, because I want to know, are we calling this episode 1 or 2, or is this special episode number 2?
No, this is STS Guys, episode 102.
102. So welcome, guys, to episode 102 of the STS Guys, the podcast where we sit around, shoot the shit, and talk about everything geeky, nerdy, and cool. I am Scott.
Hey, it's Larry.
And we are the STS Guys, and we did something fun today, which is why I had the question about the what we're going to call this in terms of episode number. I got to do something kind of fun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I had an interesting phone call today here. We have a opportunity to speak with Felicia Day, so very big name in the, we're going to say in the nerd world, right? And yeah, like I don't know another way to really describe her other than actress / podcaster / nerd extraordinaire, right?
Yeah, author.
So author, yeah. So she has a couple of projects coming up. She has a second season of her call it podcast comedy drama called Voyage to the Stars, and a new book called Embrace the Weird. So I did get a chance to talk to her for a few minutes about each of the products. So I'm going to shut up here and let's go ahead and throw that audio up so everyone can hear that interview. Hey, Felicia, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good. So as Jeremy was saying here, we are a weekly podcast that talks about everything geeky, nerdy, fun, movies, music, all that sort of stuff. So we definitely are very happy that you're taking the time to talk to us today, especially being able to talk to somebody else who does, I guess is pretty active in the podcast scene, right? It's the best way I can kind of describe it here. I know you have a new season that just, I think, one episode, or is it 2 at this point, have dropped on Spotify for you?
For Voyage to the Stars?
Yes.
Season 2 has just aired. We have actually, our second episode is now out, and it is available anywhere you get a podcast. So not only Spotify, but iTunes. Anywhere you get a podcast for free, you can download Voyage to the Stars. Perfect.
I have to say, I have listened to the first season there. Voyage to the Stars has a really interesting concept. Can you just kind of go through how you guys go through, like, the writing process for that? Because I think that's the most interesting thing.
Yeah, so my friend Ryan Koppel is the creator. He's been my friend for many, many, many years. He actually ran production for my company, Geek and Sundry, for many years. He also ran the company for a couple years at the end and left to pursue his own creative stuff right before I left. And we've rejoined forces with this project and others. But this is his baby, so he kind of spearheaded the creative, which I think is so clever. You're absolutely right. So what he does is he writes the breakdown for the season, every episode, and we know kind of the story of all the episodes and all the logs that go inside the episodes, the scenes. And so he gives us an overview like, hey, you guys are on the bridge and you're arguing over whether to go down to the planet or not. Tucker will be gung-ho about going down there because he wants to take down some aliens. Elsa will want to take all of her science equipment. And then there'll be like just that much description. And then it'll be like, at the end, you guys all scatter because you're all mad at each other or whatever. That's a terrible example. But so we have just kind of a short paragraph, and maybe 2 lines per character about how our attitude should be in the scene. And then we just improvise. We make it up. Every single word is made up on the spot, and so when we listen to the episodes back, we don't even know that we said words. I was like, oh, that's a really funny joke. I didn't remember that coming out of my mouth.
Right. It's always interesting when you have that improv and come back to it later.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to listen to something back that you made and don't remember anything about it.
Right. Well, and especially, too, when you have a lot of funny people. Like, all the people that you have, like, with the main cast and the guests that you've had are all seasoned, comedians or actors or improv people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Colton Dunn is one of the leads. He is a really prominent comedian. He's on Superstore now, but he wrote on Key and Peele and all these other shows. Janet Varney is like the queen of comedy. She runs the Sketch Fest in San Francisco. She originated that whole festival. She knows every comedian in the business, and she is incredibly funny as well as geeky. She was the voice of Cora on Legend of Korra. My friend Steve Berg is on Drunk History, and he was actually in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog with me back in the day. And our new cast member, Kirsten Banks, is from Criminal Minds, and she is just an amazing creative powerhouse and so funny. She plays kind of a red panda human alien hybrid, and so she's a wonderful addition to the cast.
Yeah, I was kind of interested to see that you have a new cast coming in for the second season and finding out who it is. I love her character on Criminal Minds, so I think her joining the cast is going to bring a lot to it.
Oh yeah, she is so funny, and yeah, just having that extra dynamic really brings the conflict between the characters to a greater hysteria and a very funny way.
Perfect. So, with season 2 coming out, is it any big storylines that you've gone through so far that you find interesting or that you can talk about? I know, like I said, there are only 2 episodes so far, but anything that you're really excited for with this new season?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, the first season was really us getting sucked in a wormhole and trying to figure out what is going on, and also visiting all these different planets and trying to find the direction to Earth. But this season, we finally figured out where Earth is, so we can start getting there. But along the way, we're uncovering more things about this big bad called the Nothing, which is basically going to probably head to Earth and start making bad stuff happen there. So it's kind of like a little bit of a race to get home. And amongst all that, we have some really funny character dynamics between me and the captain. We had some romance stuff that happened last season, and that kind of gets complicated by Kirsten's new character. And in addition to that, we have amazing guest stars. We have Angela Kinsey from The Office, Oscar Nunez from The Office, Paula Tompkins, Jesse Cox. We have so many great guest stars this season. I cannot wait for people to listen to these episodes.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to be tuning in for season 2 here. But I know that's not the only thing that you have going on, though. You have a book coming out next month too, right?
I have a book coming out October 1st. Yeah, so it's just around the corner. It's called Embrace Your Weird, Face Your Fears, and Unleash Creativity. And it's a funny, interactive self-help book that has a lot of geeky references. So I think people are going to really enjoy it. I wanted to make a book that kind of echoed what I did with my memoir, that encouraged people to go out and create, do things by themselves, for themselves, and also get help if you have things that block you, like anxiety or procrastination or fear of failure or any of that stuff. So it's an interactive book that has essays, but also exercises that the reader is meant to fill out within the book. And I'm really excited about it. I wanted to make it a fun, whimsical journey for people of all ages to just be a little bit more weird and a little bit more creative in their lives.
Right. Now, what made you decide to do the interactive book thing? Because I think that's one of the big changes or things that differ your book from a lot of self-help is that you have kind of, we'll say, audience participation with the book. What made you decide to do that?
My legacy is, I don't know about legacy, but just all the things I've done have been on the web. And so it's been a direct interaction between my fans for so many years. I wanted to kind of repeat the dialogue I have with people when I meet them at conventions or when I do speeches or when I do online videos and comments come back. And so that was a super important part of this book. That was a big challenge in how to write a book that kind of kept flowing and kept being able to give information to people, but also have people stop and kind of absorb that information with an exercise. And I love the way it came out. We have there's over 100 illustrations inside the book of robots and spaceships and worded out unicorns. So yeah, I wanted it to be a journey together. We're embarking upon something together, me and the reader. And I wanted to somehow infuse that in a physical book, and I think we did a great job about it.
Perfect. Definitely. We'll be taking a look at it when it comes out, because I'm very interested in that interactive kind of nature with it. I think that's really, really interesting for a book. Now, you're currently, I guess, going through a book tour, right, for this, leading up to the, or I guess, kind of going into that release of the book. So what are some of the cities that you're going to be in?
Yeah, I'm going on, I think it's 11 cities. I'm going to Tempe, Arizona, New York City, I'll be at NYCC, but also doing signings in New Jersey and Brooklyn while I'm there in New York. I will be going to Chicago, Boston, Raleigh, Cincinnati, Portland, Seattle, Bellingham, and I think LA is my last stop. So there's plenty of opportunity to come and see me speak and get a signed copy of the book, a picture. I'm just excited to get this book out there. I want to see people come up to me with this book like completely scrawled on and ruined and torn apart, because that's what I want, to encourage people to break the rules in order to let their weirdness fly.
Right. Definitely. It's a wonderful mission to have there. So cool. Now, there is kind of one thing I did want to ask you. It's something that we do with most everybody that we talk to. We have a little segment we call Get Up on This, where we get our guests to kind of give us a suggestion of something that they're really into right now, whether it be a book, a movie, a TV show. Is there anything like that you are currently into that you want the masses to know or to kind of join you in?
Oh, wow. I mean, let me think. I'm kind of obsessed with this. I'm obsessed with history right now, so it's maybe not as mainstream, but I'm obsessed with this this podcast called Civilization. It's this really amazing history podcast where this British guy with a very awesome accent kind of just goes and kind of surveys history about how civilizations collapsed in the past and why they collapsed. And it's just a really interesting historical survey of just all these societies like Easter Island and the Vikings and things like that I just didn't know anything about. I'm totally geeking out over. So that's one thing I think is really great. If you listen to a podcast, it's definitely worth subscribe.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Before we get going here, Felicia, can you just tell us like where people can find you, like with your social media or like a website, or kind of like where can people find where you're going to be and all that stuff?
Yeah, great. So I'm at Felicia Day pretty much on every platform: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything, Twitch. And you can find Voyage to the Stars at VTTS Official on Twitter and Instagram. And you can just download the podcast Voyage to the Stars anywhere you get a free podcast. And if you want to see me in person, you can go to FeliciaDayBooks.com. It has information on how to pre-order the physical book, the ebook, or the audio book, which I read myself. And it has all my book tour dates as well. So if you're in any one of those cities between the times of October 1st and October 19th, please come and see me. I'll be happy to say hi.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely be at the Tempe book signing here, just to come stop and say hi. But we really do, yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time out here. I know with two kind of big projects launching here, I know it's probably a busy time of the year for you here. So we appreciate it. Is there anything that you would like to add before we get going?
No, I really hope that people jump in and try the book, because it is funny and geeky, and I think a lot of people will take something away from it. It's not just like doing some bad unicorn drawing.
Perfect. I will be very good at that. I appreciate it. Thank you, Felicia. Bye. All right, and we're back here. Larry, what did you think of that?
Dude, that was awesome. Like, right? I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot about Felicia Day. You know, I know she does like Geek and Sundry, and I knew she had a podcast. I didn't know she wrote books before. I didn't know she was on that Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog thing. I didn't know that, I didn't know she was part of that, but she's been in some really cool stuff, dude. That was a great interview.
Yeah, I was really excited to talk to her. I'm actually really, really excited for the Voyage to the Stars. It's a podcast, but it's really something different. She talked a little bit about how they kind of do we'll say the format of the episodes there is that they're all kind of improvised with a little bit of direction. But if you listen to it, it actually really reminds me of like back in the day. Do you remember like the old like The Shadow?
Yeah.
Like on the radio where they would
like
have
radio
the little
serials.
teledrama. Yeah, like the
I think that's
old
what they
radio
call them, right?
serials. Yeah. It really reminds me of one of those. Like, you're kind of hearing what's going on through audio logs and talking to these different, the different members of the crew. But, they kind of still have to do the, like, here's what I'm doing, and, like, find a good way to, like, describe kind of exactly what's going on. So you get a good picture of it, but, it's like listening to one of the old, radio serials, but in podcast form. And it's about, weird characters stuck in space that aren't that great at their jobs. Like, it's actually a really, really good, smart, well-written show. Or I should say well acted, I guess, since it's all improv. But I do recommend anybody who likes, like sci-fi sort of stuff, to check it out, because it is a very good drama to kind of listen to. And you can do, I think most things go about 2 episodes is kind of the way it is. So it's kind of, each planet or each kind of interaction is spread out over about an hour or so, for the episode. So you get a good storyline, and there's guests, and she had mentioned a couple of the ones that we have coming up. So, I'm excited to hear what they have.
Yeah, no, it's, if clearly you like podcasts, if you're listening to our podcast right now. I tend to hang out in like the movie, TV, collectibles, genre and my podcast listenings too. But this sounds like something really cool that's kind of different. I'm definitely looking forward to checking out season 2.
Yeah. As you said, it's something that's different. It's a very good, like an understatement. It is vastly different from a traditional podcast. It's not quite an audiobook. It's not quite like a TV show. It's somewhere in between.
It's kind of
all these things.
It's like, it's the improv part that kind of intrigues me. Like, I like the idea of like, hey, here's kind of a loose story. All the actors, that are contributing to it are all smart and funny. Like, you guys just run with it and see what you come up with. Like, that's a really cool premise. So.
Right. Take it from guys that do everything off the cuff.
Yeah. I was like, as these words are coming out of my mouth, it's like, we should probably do that.
Yeah, I think
that actually sounds like really fun. Like, we know people who do podcasts who could come on our podcast and be special guests. Like, we're going to talk after this.
Yeah, no, of course. But there's something else that she brought up that I am actually also excited for. That she has that new book, Embrace Your Weird. So I talked a lot about it on that interview about kind of the way the book is formatted. So it's kind of a self-help book, but with some elements of interactivity, which I think is an amazing idea for a book, is to really, have that interaction with the author. So you're not just reading this person's thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it makes it more personal, right? You're part of this story. I know it's nonfiction, but you're part of this. You're part of this journey. It's just not somebody talking at you. It's, hey, you need to put your input too, so you get more out of it than maybe just reading, like, because it is kind of a self-help book. You're putting something into it that way you're getting more back, rather than maybe just like another book where they're just kind of spouting out facts that don't pertain to your situation, your life, or maybe the things that you're going on that are holding you back.
Right. No, exactly. I think it's a much better approach to kind of that genre, and so I'm very excited for October 1st to come around here so that we can check out the book, because I know just based on its format and knowing who the author is, I know it's going to be a good book.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm just reading through the description and stuff. Like, I feel like the general theme is tips to cultivate a creative community is one of the bullet points she's got here for us, right? Like, it's just these ways to overcome things like, anxiety, or she mentioned procrastination, or sometimes like things that hold you back, like other people's criticism, or, not being able to find an audience. Like, there's all these things that can slow down your creativity or make you not want to create things. Like, believe it or not, like, podcasting is one creative outlet Like I feel like we struggle with that stuff sometimes too. You know, it's not always easy to come up with ideas. Having our group, you know, the four of us, the four STS guys, like we're able to help each other. We're able to come up with ideas and bounce things off of each other. Like we've got that open communication. Not everybody has that. So this is a good way to, you know, maybe help you find a community like that or some friends. Like maybe your friends aren't into the same stuff you're into. So looking forward to seeing kind of what her tips are and reading more. I think it's, you know, again, if you're listening to my voice right now, it's probably something that would interest you because it totally interests me.
Right. No, I'm right there. Like these are the sort of things that I love to read, and there's something that anyone can get out of, right? Like even if you think you don't need it, like you can read the book and get some tips and things.
Exactly. Maybe it's not something you would actively seek out, but like this is a familiar name kind of in the, you know, nerd Comic-Con community that we all run in, and like I'm very interested to kind of hear her thoughts because you know, like celebrities they're the same as us, right? They struggle with the same kind of issues and all that. So it's cool to kind of see the human side of, you know, actors and actresses. You know, yeah, sure, I see you on the TV on Supernatural and all that, but I'd like to learn, you know, more about a successful person's creative process. Like that's the kind of, you know, that's the kind of stuff that helps you be more creative and be more successful. So one day I hope I grow up and I can be a little more like Felicia Day.
Don't we all?
Just the red hair.
Yeah. I already got part of that going on, so I think I'm one step ahead in that faction. So that works. So go back through, take a look. Felicia did list out a lot of the places where you can go find her. I do recommend to go check her out if you haven't gotten a chance to see some of the stuff she does. She does a ton of things, not just what we talked about here, but there's tons of other stuff that she has her hands in. So I do recommend to go check it out. And while you're at it, Larry, where can everybody find us?
Well, let's do two things. So you can find us at STS Guys on Instagram. We're at STS Guys on Twitter. And we're at the STS Guys on Facebook. And I am Larry. I am Larry from the STS Guys.
I kind of like that. I am the Larry.
I am the Larry. Oh, I can't steal that from the Patrick.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you can find us. Felicia Day is at Felicia Day pretty much on every platform, like she said. But if you're in any of the cities where her tour is coming, right? She's going to be in Arizona, Raleigh, North Carolina, Ridgewood, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Ohio, New York City for New York Comic-Con, Bellingham, Washington, Brooklyn, New York, Seattle, Washington, Naperville, Beaverton, Oregon, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Los Angeles, California. You can find all those cities, all those dates at FeliciaDayBook.com. And of course, at FeliciaDayBook.com, you can find out exactly where you can pre-order a copy of her book. #EmbraceYourWeird.
Perfectly done, sir. So
come back next week for episode 103 of the STS Guys podcast, where we will be live on YouTube, 8 p.m. Pacific. Come hang out.
And by the way, this is all being done over the phone, so we're in a different format than usual. So we do apologize for quality issues that may arise, but we had gone through this process and wanted to get something out for everybody to see.
Yeah, hopefully it's good enough. It's good enough. It's not
good. It's good enough for the STS guys.
Exactly. All right.
So for episode 102 of the STS Guys, I am Scott.
Hey, it's Larry.
And y'all have a good night.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Shut up and sit down.